Welcome, everyone, to the Wednesday Night Live. We are back, and we got a special guest joining us tonight. Phil will be here. No Paul tonight. He'll be back, I think, next week. Hopefully, he's back by next week. But before we start the show, this community never ceases to amaze me. I want to thank everybody out there that DM me and send me messages on Twitter and on Facebook and emails about my mom. I really appreciate that. It's amazing, the community. And I have lots of love for you guys. I'm going to choke up. Joining us tonight is Jeffrey Zamora. Jeffrey are you the producer and the creator of that documentary? Jeff? Both?
Solo filming and everything.
Your editor,
copy editor,
color. What do they call the key grip? Key grip.
Fixer, everything.
Lighting. You're everything in that documentary. And the documentary is about the people of Argentina's battle with harm reduction. You can find the link to the documentary. It's on YouTube only, right? Because is it in other locations that I should link to during the show?
Well, the website is #safer. Everything.
Okay.
.com.
Okay, I'll add that to the thing, but you can find it in our header, guys, and I will be, during the show, I will be posting it in the chat as well. Great documentary. You guys should all go and watch that. Let's do our hellos and say hello to Mr. Tim up there. Tim, how is your week going?
Hi,
Tim.
No, I'm fine. I'm a little tired. I'm a little burnt out. It's ebb and flow in my life, and some days you feel like you're a member of the HOA board, and then there are days when you don't feel like you're a member of the HOA board. And this week has just been full of a bunch of days where I suddenly feel like I'm a member of the HOA board, and of course I'm towing the line, a lot of the time. So it's like, hey, you guys want to come help me with? No, don't worry about it. You're busy. I get it. Family, that sort of thing. It's okay. We all have responsibilities. No, prioritize. Go ahead.
Doesn't it get worse though during the spring, right? Because now everybody's out and about. They're looking at everybody's lawns, and they're the mailbox is too high.
I think the temperament is generally the same 365 days a year. It's usually all quiet on the Western Front, and then all of a sudden everybody's just got a million things to fucking complain about. So you end up basically being like a high school counselor for an entire neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like, you guys, can you all just go in your own corner for 2 minutes, calm down, and we'll figure out the dog poop in your front yard. I swear.
Hey, I have that problem. I'm with whoever's complaining.
Yeah, so it's life, man.
Hey, I'm with that guy, Tim. I don't own a dog, so I should not have dog shit on my lawn.
Well, if you come to my neighborhood, I guarantee you, if you lived here, eventually someone will let you know that your dog pooped in their yard.
Yeah. And Jeffrey, how's your week going?
Great, thank God. Today we had a conference in Mexico. I participated online, of course. Since I'm in Costa Rica at this present time. But it was great. We have been going through 3 days so far. It goes straight to Friday. So it's 5 days of conference. I share a panel with, I participate as a solo speaker, and as well I share a panel with a doctor called Miguel de la Guardia, which is a pretty famous doctor in Spain, as well with Federico Fernandez, which is part of an NGO that have organizations pretty much all over Latin America, and with a lawyer from Peru, Flor, and I don't remember her last name, unfortunately. But it was great. We had a great time. We talked about a lot about harm reduction. Like many people know, e-cigarettes and pretty much every single harm reduction product is kind of illegal in Mexico.
Yeah,
where their smoking prevalence of smoking is going up. through the years. Actually, it's now at 17.5%. There's 3 organizations there. One that is one that is for consumers that is called Pro Apeo Mexico, and there's 2 organizations that are involved with businesses dedicated to selling e-cigarettes and other forms of harm reduction products. So it was a great time, and we're trying to see what we can do in Mexico to help a little bit with the problem.
Yeah.
And before we jump to you, Ali, Tim, I said I only have one monitor. Can you kind of keep track of the chat? If you want to put something up on the screen, you can go ahead and do it. I can barely. Yeah.
No problem.
All right, Ali, how's your week going, Ali?
Pretty good. So I'm off on Mondays now from work, so I can try to figure out all the extra stuff that I have to do. So I did 2 podcasts on Monday.
Oh man,
I know. I should have been at school. But I did the new Shaping Vaping, where I got to interview Dr. Michael Siegel, he's fantastic. And then I did a Regulator Watch taping, so that I think should be out in 10 days. So I'm just pile more on. I'm supposed to be
gallivanting across the podcast landscape.
Tim, see what we created? You see what we created?
We got a moonlighter on our hands, John.
We created this monster right here.
I just can't take a break for some reason.
Popular.
But maybe in 2 weeks on Monday I'll have a moment. But yeah, it was good.
Tim, I think she worked it out to have Mondays off because it's starting to get warmer and she wants some more pool time. Yeah. So she figures Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 3 days of pool time.
That I was completely exhausted.
John, it doesn't matter. All that shit's out the window once the schools are out. So
yeah, that's true.
That Monday's not going to seem like a her day.
It's not so bad here. We have 2 pools in my development, so and typically we'll scout them out first. We'll be like, oh, there's less people over here, so we'll go to this one. But on a Monday, I'll be there all by myself, which is amazing.
The place I used to live had 3 pools. One was just for the kids, and then the other one was kids and adults, and the other one was just adults because it had the fire pit, a bar, and all this other. There was bras hanging around there, but yeah,
that's the adult pool, yeah.
Yeah, I got a feeling that Tim, we're gonna have Ali one of these days do the podcast from a by poolside in one of those pool chairs.
Yeah. With a coconut with an umbrella coming out.
Margarita.
My language now.
It's reasonable. It's reasonable.
A pool boy and a towel boy and all that stuff.
A man in a loincloth feeding her grapes. It's just weird shit. Yeah.
Just her barking out orders to people. Before we jump into questions that we have for you, Jeffrey, explain a little bit about the political environment there in Argentina and what kind of voice do the people have there, especially with the government, as far as harm reduction. I don't want to go into all the other politics there, but basically...
Because if we go too broad, it will be talking a lot about corruption. There's a lot of corruption.
Yeah.
Argentina has been known for that. When it comes to harm reduction products, unfortunately, they were banned. The commercialization of the products were banned in 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Yeah, quite a while ago. And the use is not prohibited in any way, but how can you get it if you're not able to buy it legally in anywhere, right?
Right.
Well, there's a huge community. Currently, they're close to 1.5 million people vaping, according to the consumer organization in Argentina, which is led by a person called Facundo, and his wife, that is called Eileen. I don't know if you have seen it around, perhaps in Twitter. They're great. They're great people. And there's another person there that actually, both of them appears on the documentary. And there's a third person that is called Dr. Diego Verrastro, which is the spokesperson for Realidad. That is an organization made by health professionals and doctors and everybody involved in the health aspects. He is in Argentina whatsoever. The organization called Realidad, it's pretty much in all Latin America. At this present time, there's a bill that is trying to regulate vaping whatsoever. There's a lot of political aspects when it comes to that. Uh, the government is not willing whatsoever. The bill, we hope that it brings some attention to the fact that regulation is obviously the way forward. With 1.5 million people vaping and a lot of businesses there, right?
Yeah.
It's inevitable that there's a huge demand for the product, and obviously it's selling around, and it's really easy to see and spot the underground shops through social media and stuff. So unfortunately, there's this impediment for those businesses to go legal and to ask for loans, to ask for any kind of financial help, or even to export the products to some other countries around. For example, Paraguay, that is right next to Argentina. They have e-cigarettes and other harm reduction products completely legal. We have a big expo like a month ago, some stuff like that, like a month and a half ago. And there's also Brazil, which is another country that have banned e-cigarettes, but is right next to Argentina. So those three countries, they do. There's a lot of trafficking of illegal goods within those countries. Not only talking about harm reduction products, but everything in general. Right?
Everything.
Yeah. So obviously, harm reduction products goes into that, and it is traffic. It is traffic between the borders between those countries. Since Paraguay now it's legal, obviously some products will be going from Paraguay to those countries whatsoever. They do receive importations of products directly, and they go under the table. They just pay, to not be stuck in customs and whatsoever. So obviously, we're hoping for a better regulation. We're hoping to change that. Like I said, the consumer organization there is working really, really hard to try to promote that bill that is already being discussed.
Yeah. Phillip has joined us. Hello, Phillip.
Okay.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Phil? Can you hear us? But before we get, I forgot a key part of our show. Timmy, say hello to everybody out there. Can't hear you, Tim. Timmy, technical difficulties in Atlanta.
Well, I can't actually hear you.
Yeah.
I was sparing everybody from the wiener dogs. And yes, John, I'm severely disappointed in you. First show back. But there's some solace in all of this, John.
You guys hear me?
I forgot my own segment last week. So there he is. Yeah, that's the Jeff. That's the mime, Phillip Kirschberg, right there.
The mime.
If he starts doing the thing, and if he starts doing the thing in the box or whatever, just let him go. Anyway, hey, ¿cómo estáis, amigos y amigas? Welcome to this week's edition of the Wednesday Night Live Show. That's about as much Spanish as you're going to get out of me.
Pretty good.
I tried to throw a little bit of accent in there. Yeah. So let's say hi to the people in the peanut gallery, the wonderful vape chat. Let's start at the top and scroll our way down. Something just tells me Mallory Gates is first.
She was quick. She was quick.
Mallory Gates. Good to see you, Mallory. How are you? Wonderful to see you. She's in here first. Pam Spraggins, good to see you. Always here. Oh, we got the ladies crowd tonight. I think Allison is ushering in a all new core group of people. Not only do we have Mallory, then we went Pam. Now we got Janine. Janine's in here as third in line. So excellent, ladies. Welcome to the show. We got Aylin. Aylin is in here, and a fourth lady. What is happening? This is turning into a really great show. And then, of course, our solid friend, Bud Southfeather. Good to see you, Bud. He helped. We can hear you.
You're good.
I just can't hear you.
Leave and come back. Exit,
we'll come back to you.
Back. No. Log off and then come back. He can't hear. Type to him and just tell him that he needs to just leave and come back, I think. Anywho, Bud Southfeather. Good to see you, Bud, abbreviated South. Wonderful, sir. Addie Tooney, always great to see you. Who else? Did I miss anybody? I know I saw some other names in here. Bear with me. James R. Good to see you, James R. How are you? I I know there's other ones. Hold on, we're not done. Somebody was tardy. Who was tardy? I know somebody said, "Excuse my tardiness." I caught that.
I'm afraid
Steve
this is getting kind of silly.
Good to see you, sir. How are you?
Anything?
And,
Nothing?
Yeah, we hear you. We hear you.
We got you, buddy. And Tom Morowitz.
You all look great.
The can't hear. Okay, hold on. All right. Anyway, welcome to the show, everybody.
Yeah. Welcome.
Let me try to reboot this.
Yeah. You do that. First off, where were we here? Let me make sure I got everything right here. You did our hellos, and we did talk. I wanted to ask you a little quick question about the politics as well. Are people able to sit down and talk to the politicians about harm reduction, or like we can here, sit down with a senator or congressman or state assembly person?
It's difficult. It's really difficult. A lot of people won't even agree to a meeting, right? When it comes to talking about anything related to health or even tobacco, especially. There's obviously presence of organizations funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies that are blocking any kind of discussion, like happens in most countries in Latin America. You get thrown the 5.3 from the FCTC around constantly, and even if it's not applying because you're a consumer organization, you even receive that kind of culture that the tobacco control have. Whatsoever, the people from Argentina, that is the consumer organization again, they have been able to overpass a little bit and start talking with a few politicians. They have been doing this job or this little work by work and step by step.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, to try to bring attention to the whole aspect of harm reduction. And it started being discussed a couple of years ago. And that's the reason why now they have this bill that's been written by one of the politicians there, that is kind of a congressman, that is the equivalent to will be in the United States. So they've been talking. There's a lot of information being shared around, not only by the consumer organization and the health professionals, but some other NGOs that are present there that are starting to talk about harm reduction as a whole and harm reduction related to tobacco. So there's pretty big hopes there.
No, that's nice.
Step by step, it's a slow process.
Is it more of a fear of communicating with those politicians? Are people afraid to talk to them, or is it just they're not listening?
No.
Is there any fear involved?
They have to jump a lot of hoops to get in contact.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't get a response.
Yeah.
A lot of people in Latin America, when we try to approach, for example, our congressmen, their deputies, it is really difficult. They just don't answer. Except from Chile, that they have a transparency law and a lobby law that anybody can actually request a meeting with a person in Congress just by filling out a form in their website, and you get assigned a date and blah, 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 blah. But in the rest of the countries, we don't have that. So it's kind of really difficult to get in touch with one of them, and to even talk to them or a meeting it's quite difficult.
Okay. First off, I love the documentary talk before the show, and I thought it was just amazing that you left it in the native language there in Argentina. My question for you is, like I said earlier, that I was surprised by the different smoking rates in different groups and ethnic groups, and I kind of did a little digging. We talked a little bit about that in the beginning, but I was surprised by some of the numbers. And again, these are 2022. So in Spain, it's 22% of the population reported smoking in 2022. 20% of them were daily smokers. Argentina's smoking rate in 2022 or 2020 was 24.5. But again, I was saying, it was much lower here in the United States with the Hispanic people at 8.25%. My question for you is, what are you doing to get this video out to more people, Hispanic people?
Well, we have been sharing around like crazy. I know that even some politicians have seen it. I have received that feedback. The organization from Argentina is working a lot. I'm a president of the umbrella organization for Latin America and Spain and Portugal consumer organizations as well. So we have been sharing around. We have been trying to get it as much as possible. Obviously, it's kind of a small project. Like I was telling you guys outside cameras, it was shot really quick. It was filmed during only 13 days. That most of the day, well, a lot of the days actually spent traveling because it takes for me to get to Argentina around 19 hours to go and come back. And in top of that, I have to travel from Buenos Aires to taking a plane from Buenos Aires to the Corrientes, that is the where most of the documentary takes place. And then we also traveled to Paraguay, that is the other country. So I spent a lot of time traveling. We were there. I was there around only 13 days whatsoever. Even the Facundo and Eileen and Dr. Diego Verrastro, they pretty much put their life apart and stopped their life just to help me out because they even had to travel around 8 hours on bus to be where I was gonna be. So they were a really big help in order to be able to complete this on time. Obviously, funding is not excessive, right? And
Yeah.
right. So there's a lot of stuff that we have to take into consideration. So I only spent like 13 days counting the hours that I was traveling and everything in Argentina. So it was really quick. It was like pretty much running around like crazy. I shot like 8 terabytes of footage, and then after that, just pretty much edit the whole thing out as quick as possible.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's
Producer, director, lighting guy, key grip, editor.
I don't want to interrupt or anything. I'm Jeffrey. It's really great to see you.
Go ahead,
here,
Phillip.
Kirschberg. Anyway, sorry I'm late. Please continue.
He didn't have a hall pass.
I
have a question.
At that.
Yeah, go ahead, Timmy. You're up.
All right,
You're up
so-
anyway.
Okay, great. So Jeff, do you prefer Jeff? Is Jeff okay, or do you like Jeffrey?
Jeff will be fine.
Jeff is fine. Okay, good. So, Jeff, can you set the stage for us with regard to the countries that you battle to try to introduce harm reduction more to the general public? What's the grounds for those governments explicitly wanting to ban vaping as a tobacco harm reduction methodology? I will just assume that some of that is predicated on the medical, the health system there. It would seem to me that countries that have more of a not a private health system, but a public health system would be more inclined to want harm reduction products in the mix just because it keeps their population healthy. Whereas here in a private health system, they're not so interested in that kind of stuff because they'd rather us be sick and addicted most of the time. So so set the stage for us. Why are those countries so staunch and against vaping as a harm reduction method? Just picking vaping out of multiple.
When it comes to LMICs, low and middle income countries, there's a bunch of interference from Bloomberg Philanthropies. A lot. Like the Argentinian government itself received funding from Bloomberg Philanthropies, and that is vaping is banned. The Panamanian government received funding, have received awards. The person that is dedicated to regulating tobacco and pretty much deal with everything tobacco, she had received awards from Bloomberg Philanthropies.
Wow.
The guy from Mexico, the other place that is banned, for example, the subsecretary of health, his wife works with Bloomberg Philanthropies. So you can pretty much unite the points, right?
Yeah.
Jeffrey, I have a question for you. Like you said, there was a secretary, member of the high-ranking member of the Tobacco Control Secretariat from the World Health Organization who was awarded something by the World Health Organization for literally banning vaping products in India.
Right.
Bearing that in mind, do you think these physicians, these health professionals understand, how should I put this? do you believe they are more misinformed or absolutely informed and acting out of self-interest? I want to believe that they are just completely, they obviously don't care about the science that isn't funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies. We can all understand why. But do you believe they know a great deal more about what it is they're in opposition to and the health benefits that they are denying lower middle income people than they are allowing the world to know on the world stage, if you will?
The ideology takes a lot of part in this, right? And a lot of people kind of afraid or stop being relevant when it comes to tobacco control.
So ideologically speaking, you think that they are truly, they do believe that they're on this planet to eradicate tobacco in all of its forms, regardless. And they truly haven't taken a hard look at what vaping can do for people who smoke, especially people who are impoverished and smoke. So
there's a huge part that actually believes that whatsoever, and that's my belief, and have nothing to back it up. But I do think that, for example, the people in higher ranks that do have bigger salaries that depend on, kind of agreeing to a certain mission, a certain path, don't have an option. You're not gonna say something, or you're not gonna agree with something that most probably put out your job, right?
Right.
So if it touches your salary, you're not gonna be willing to agree with something, right? And this present time, when it comes to harm reduction products, like I said, like we said, and Phillip said, ideological. There's a lot of people that are pretty much fearing that they're gonna be either not relevant or out of a job. When it comes, and I have seen it on some conference when it comes to related to tobacco control, and especially the people that are not on the higher ranks, but in between the middle and lower ranks, right, on the lower positions, they're feeling frustrated because there's no real impact of what they're doing, right?
Yep.
Right? They do get a lot of information about vaping and all that stuff and harm reduction. So they're starting to doubt a lot of what the people in the higher ranks are saying, right? And so I think that we pretty much a few years away from seeing a real breakup in the relation within the middle ranks and the higher ranks of these people involved in tobacco control. Mm-hmm. That's my belief, and perhaps
I agree with you entirely. I remember when the gentleman who was given the award for essentially talking the Indian government into banning vaping in full. I remember when he was given that award and thinking, how is, in a world that needs tobacco harm reduction, a country that needs tobacco harm reduction more than any other on the planet, this person has been given an award by the most well-known health organization on the planet for banning what is effectively a less expensive cure for cancer. And without me getting into the specifics, do you?
All right, let's time out, Phillip. We're going in order. It's Allie's turn, then you. Go ahead, Al.
Okay. I was enjoying the conversation. No worries.
We got to be nice to you, Allie. We got to be nice to you.
Always
it's
nice.
fine. But
Thank
I
you,
mean, I want to know, why did you decide to, take this project on, and what impacted you the most out of, your experience with that first episode?
The decision to take this project is pretty much because I don't know what you guys think, but we're not defending a product per se. That's what I think, right? This is my perspective, right? We're not defending a product per se. I believe that we're defending the right of people to access something. Mm-hmm. So I think that the most important thing is to highlight the people that are actually involved in that fight, the good fight of having harm reduction products available for these people, these 1.3 billion people that are currently not willing or not wanting to quit smoking altogether, right? So I do believe in the power of that. There's a story behind every single one of us. There's a story behind Ali. There's a story behind Tim, behind Philip, behind John, that actually can resonate a lot with some other people, because we can talk science for hours. There's thousands studies about this stuff, right? It's become a little more, kind of boring, let's say. Even though that science is needed, even though that we need a lot of studies to be done still, there's a lot of things that we don't know still, like in every single product on the earth, right? There's a lot of stuff that it will be good to know. Whatsoever, I do think that we come to a point that we need to understand that we're talking about something related to people and not related to a product. I cannot be less caring if Vaporeso stays in business, or if it is some other company, the one that supplies the product, as long as the people, the consumers, have the right to choose a less harmful alternative to smoking. And that's my belief, at least, right?
Right.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you.
100%.
Yeah. And then
go ahead, Ali.
I was just going to say the second part was, while you were on that journey, what impacted you the most? What kind of, because I know anytime I get somebody to make that choice to quit, or anytime I hear somebody's quitting story, it kind of rejuvenates me to keep going and keep fighting. So that entire experience, I know just sitting and watching it, was made me feel like, emotional for these people, because I couldn't even imagine. I keep thinking we're in a bad situation, but I can't even imagine, that situation. So, is there anything that really stood out to you that made you,
The people that actually are selling the goods, right, that they're involved in the illicit market, the ones that I spoke with, they have a genuine desire to help people, right? And even though that they're doing something illicit, even though that at any moment somebody can actually throw the door down and put them in jail, like it has happened, right? They are going that route and say, we can help people. I'm going to help them the way that that somebody helped me to quit smoking. I want them to give them a chance. I want them to know their grandchildren. And that thing, even though that they're putting themselves in jeopardy, in danger, right, or facing legal repercussions for what they're doing, they're still fighting. And a lot of them are activists and advocates for harm reduction. And a lot of them, they're pretty much 24/7 assisting people, because since they're selling vape stuff and harm reduction products from their own home, or from little places that is hidden, right? Those places are hidden so people can stop by and look for the products. They're 24/7 available. If somebody at 2 a.m. send them a message or come knocking at the door, hey, dude, I need a liquid because I don't have it, and I'm still partying. I'm afraid I'm gonna be smoking. No, they open at 2 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
Go ahead, Philip.
I'm actually listening.
Okay, all right. I can go ahead. I'll go ahead with my second question. With an all-out ban of imported vaping products into the country of Argentina, but the fact that vaping itself isn't banned, how does someone explain their ability to vape to authorities?
there's no way.
Can't admit it, right?
It magically appeared.
That's the thing that makes me laugh. I mean, it's like, okay, let's ban everything that we need, but it's okay to vape. I mean, and then you walk down the street and you said there's like 1.5 million people vaping there. So obviously you're going to run into somebody with a fucking vape device on the street. And my second part of that is, is Argentina doing anything to kind of stop the illicit market from coming in there? Are they enforcing this at all?
They have been doing raids when it comes to people selling harm reduction products, e-cigarettes especially. They have done several raids. They have put people in jail. They have confiscated a lot of products whatsoever. There's a lot of demand, and there's a lot of people selling them. So obviously, it's a profitable business, right? And there's a huge people looking for them. So they're not gonna get rid of everything. Like it had happened in the United States, prohibition, it doesn't help anything, and it doesn't stop the demand on any way.
Yeah.
Are they? This is a funny question, but back in the days, you were allowed so much marijuana before they arrested you. Is that what they're doing? Is there a limit to amount of e-liquid you're allowed to have in your home? Is there some sort of?
If you're not selling it, if they don't catch you selling, or if there's any proof that you're selling, they cannot put you in jail whatsoever. When they have raided a shop and they found, I don't know, 30, 40 devices and 50 liquids, right? They know that you're selling, right?
Right.
Now they have and I don't know if you saw on the documentary, but there's a picture that they're going with like a radioactive hazard custom stuff.
Yeah, I saw that.
They go into the raids.
Don't touch that juice.
Like it's a meth lab or something like that.
So for what is in essence a very small amount of e-liquid.
Yeah, what's the personal use?
They will incarcerate someone for an indefinite amount of time, and the law enforcement will take these products and sell them themselves.
Yeah, probably.
And actually, if you stay long enough on a vape shop, you're gonna see police officers coming in.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, that's I don't know if a lot of people in the chat realize that they didn't just ban e-liquid, guys. They banned the cotton, they banned the wire, they banned the mod itself, tanks, RDAs. I mean, it looks like they were paying attention to us here in the U.S. and saying, let's make sure there's no fucking loopholes, because that was our thing. We always had a loophole here, always had some way of getting around some sort of policy. But there in Argentina, they just said, hey, you know what? They need wire, we're banning that. They need cotton, we're banning that. They made sure. And that just kind of blows me away when you say there's 1.5 million people vaping there. And I'm thinking to myself, where's all this shit coming from, man?
Most logical place, right? You just said it yourself. You're like, we've always been able to find some kind of I guess I'll say it this way, some kind of a legal loophole in order to keep propelling us forward. Whereas you have an entire indigenous community that really has no option but to find an illegal loophole to acquiring the products that they need. And to the comment, to the thought about the police showing up to these vape shops with hazmat suits on, which on the surface just sounds insane, because there's really nothing harmful unless they're going to drink an entire bottle of nicotine, 100 milligram straight. I doubt that's going to happen in a raid.
Throwing up, it's not like you're going to die. You're going to start throwing up.
Exactly. So I'm just wondering if that's sensationalism, or if that's because they are not quite sure what they might find in the back storeroom. Meaning they might stumble across something else beyond vaping.
Enforcement.
And I will say it's both. I will say that they have no knowledge about what they're actually doing, because they don't understand exactly what are e-cigarettes. Like I'm pretty sure that even in the United States, there's a lot of people that actually don't get it, right?
Yeah.
What are the e-liquids made of, right? And there's a lot of sensationalism and alarmist claims done by the government itself that put people in fear of this stuff, right? So
our drug enforcement agency is teaching kids about fentanyl wearing hazmat suits, which essentially sends the message that if you touch the fentanyl, you can overdose, which is, of course, complete nonsense. So I can only imagine what it looks like from countries that are just getting little snippets of what our government is trying to teach our children about drugs. It's horrifying, and it's irresponsible. And How can we help you?
It just, for me, I'm just like thinking, am I allowed to carry a 15 ml bottle of e-liquid while I'm walking down the street there?
He said it's not illegal for people to possess.
Yeah,
they just don't have a legal way of
But
possessing.
as a police officer, you're thinking, well, how did he get it? How did he get e-liquid? That's the confusion part for me. It's just like, what is a cop supposed to do? I mean, he knows you have no access. You shouldn't have any access to this, but yet there's 1.5 million people just blowing vapor in Argentina somehow, some way.
Well, I guess that's the dichotomy, though, right? Yeah. Because if it's legal for you to possess it, have it on your person, then they probably don't reserve the right to question you on where it actually came from. I mean, they might. I mean, I'm thinking, there's probably, like in every country, even here too, I mean, there's corrupt officers, there's corrupt people. Yeah. And I'll bet you there's been a few cops along the way that have probably stopped some poor guy who's just vaping his strawberry e-liquid, and some cop, some young gung-ho cop who wants to go by the book, probably threatens them and says, I'm going to take you to jail unless you tell me who your source is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And somebody slips them a Benny or something, like these are not the droids you're looking for.
Yeah. This is not the strawberry. Yeah.
So I have a question then. So
wait, hold on, Tim. There haven't been any strip shirts done there in Argentina, like here in the United States. Okay.
It's yours, guys. You can. It's only yours.
All right, go ahead, Tim. It's only us.
So being that vaping was banned a long time ago, in this particular case, I mean, we really our fight really started ratcheting up in around 2016. You're saying 2011. So there's a huge disparity there in terms of the timeline. My question is with regard to the general messaging that kind of goes out across the airwaves, because the most predominant thing outside of, it's not good for you, it's worse than smoking, like all the other propagandist kind of crap that they like to throw out, that's aimed at in general terms, aimed at the adult crowd, right? So the fear factor, right? Let's scare them into thinking that they shouldn't touch this stuff because of how horrible it is. On what level, on what scale does the Argentinian government substantiate their argument about continuing to ban vaping where that applies to children, right? Because that's the thing that we deal with the most here, is that's the underlying thing. It's the kid. The kids are it's an epidemic. Millions of kids are vaping and they shouldn't be vaping. So let's just take it away from the adults too. This sounds more like it was aimed at adults to start.
And I have to tell you, remember back in 2009 to 2011, that in the United States they had the lawsuit, the deal with Enjoy, that it was, and there was a warning made by the FDA back in that time about e-cigarettes. That's the reason a lot of governments in Latin America banned these products. In Panama, in Argentina, in Brazil, that was the same warning that it was used to ban these products, right? Even though that after that, Enjoy had this lawsuit and it kind of put everything aside and blah, 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 blah. Even though like that, it still provoked these bans in some of the countries, right? At this present time, what they're using, obviously, just like you said, is the youth vaping epidemic thing, right, is being used to exhaust, right? We still hear that. We still hear the popcorn lung. We still hear the water in the lungs thing, the diacetyl, how do you say?
Evaluate?
No, the evaluate, of course.
Diacetyl, and then it's acetylpropionyl.
No, the antifreeze, the ethylene glycol. How do you say it in English? I didn't hear you, Tim. You were mute.
You're muted.
All right, sparing animals. No, I was saying, the old antifreeze story. Yeah, we
antifreeze,
that one too. Yeah.
But like you remember, it was a study done by the FDA that they found less than 1% of the antifreeze liquid in one e-liquid from one of the e-cigarettes that I think that it was like generation 1 of e-cigarettes.
That's an old story, yeah.
It was similar circumstances to when they were able to create formaldehyde. You burn something long enough at a high enough temperature that it was never intended to be burned at. All kinds of interesting substances might, rear their ugly heads. And that's
the same arguments that the Argentinian government is using, and a lot of countries these days use here in Latin America. And I know that you go through you guys in United States go through a cycle that you hear these stories back and forward, but we go through the same, like, pretty much. And there's a lot of Vape for Tobacco Free Kids funding these organizations as well. So they kind of send them the memo. Okay, we're pushing this week. So right. So it's the same stuff.
Right. So they preempt it by pushing that narrative to even further kind of mar the idea around vaping and whether or not it's actually a harm reduction tool. They use the kids as the argument to say, well, if we allow this to come into our midst as a legal product, then it's just going to ignite the kids, and that's all we're going to be dealing with is a bunch of kids vaping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And obviously,
Ali, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so, this documentary was phenomenal. If anybody hasn't watched it, definitely should watch it. But it was episode 1. So obviously that means that there's going to be more. Do you have an idea of where the next location will be, or how many episodes you're planning on doing?
I believe tomorrow I will be airing on a special. It's not episode 2, but it's before episode 2. And then probably I'll be shooting episode 2 during May to hopefully publish it if I have enough time to publish it before GFN. Otherwise, after GFN, because I have to go to Poland for a panel there, and then it will be at least 3 episodes, 4 more episodes, and 2, hopefully 2 like a special short episodes. And like I said, tomorrow we're going to be airing the second one. I have not given details to nobody whatsoever, guys. I do believe that you guys deserve a snippet. So
we got exclusive.
Yeah.
Right. Don't anybody go telling anybody. You guys
on the next episode, or the special episode, we have Ethan Nadelman talking, as well as Julio Ruades, El Mono Vapeador, which is a reviewer of vape products in Spain. He have like 500K followers, and it's pretty much like a big influence in Latin America when it comes to products. There's also Ignacio Leiva, that is from Chile, the Consumer Organization of Chile, and there is Jessica Harding from Knowledge, Action, and Change.
I have a follow-up question to Ali's question. When you do these documentaries, I know there's a small thing. Do you still need to let them know that you're coming in to their country? Permit-wise, anything like? Yeah, see, that's what I was going through my head while I was watching your video. And I was you can't help the significance of covering their faces and the importance. So I was always wondering if this was something you had to do when you went into these other countries is, hey, I'm here to shoot a documentary. I'm going to be at this location, that location, and having to file for permits and other stuff like that.
Yeah, some of them, they do not ask like something really relevant, right? Whatsoever. Some countries in Latin America required some sort of alert for filling out forms that you're going to be coming in with a lot of gear, because obviously I travel with a big Pelican case with light stands and lights and all that stuff, right? So I have to show them that it's not weapons or firearms or anything like that. They actually, on Argentina, when I arrived to Argentina, they asked me to open the Pelican case, right? That's what I was going to be doing with that stuff. And the guy told me, what are you going to do with that stuff? There's so many things and stands and all that stuff. And I told him, I'm shooting a documentary about harm reduction. And he said, okay, what is that? And I told him, like e-cigarettes, nicotine pouches, blah, blah, blah. And he said to me, Well, that is worse than smoking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I spent like an hour with the guy trying to explain him about what is harm reduction, even though to the point that he was like, "Please go, take your stuff and go."
Like, get out of here.
Is it a customs official?
Yeah.
Wow.
U.S.
Is there so many
customs.
In what country were you entering? I'm curious.
Argentina.
You're going back to Argentina.
Going in.
Going in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. And one more follow-up question, just because it's me here. Canon or Sony or Nikon? So we can still be friends. We can still be friends.
Don't worry, Jeff. John's always different. He's always different.
I'm the Canon guy. Go ahead, Phillip.
So nobody talks about Fuji ever anymore?
Or Panasonic? Panasonic? Are you?
I don't want to discuss this. Jeffrey, you're involved with a lot of organizations, and bravo to you for all that you've managed to accomplish with this is a Herculean task. The countries that you're having to deal with, they were banning vaping before it was fashionable to ban vaping or even think about it. So that being said, well done. What organization or organizations should people watching donate $1 or $1,000 to help out?
Every single one of them.
Which one is of the two? You have INCO, you have as a couple of different ones listed. Just start with International Nicotine Alliance.
The INCO, well, it's pretty important. As you know, this year we have top 10, right? Which is kind of a big deal. As you guys pretty much probably know, INCO is the only global organization that have been accredited to assist to high-level meetings back in 2018. They were present at the COP8, even though the FCTC Secretariat kicked them out, right? They pursued on COP9. They were not able, obviously, because it was virtual, right? It was kind of difficult. On this COP10, we're going to be trying to enter the FCTC COP, right? So it is really important for INCO to be standing, and they represent, 32 organizations globally. So it's really important for them to be around, and there's a huge importance for them. For them, I'm the director of social media and AV producer. Then we have ASOAPE Costa Rica, that is the consumer organization for Costa Rica, right? Obviously, and I'm pretty sure that you have seen the KAC report about consumer organizations and how pretty much the entire global spectrum is not funded by anyone, right? And it's pretty much just dedication, passion, and love and all stuff, right? So it's not funded. I'm also the president of ARDT.
Important stuff.
Yeah, the president of ARDT Iberoamerica. That is the kind of the umbrella organization for Latin America that I hope that we have some sort of presence and participation, because Panama is one of our members, and we're trying to see how we can fly there as many people as possible, right, to physically demonstrate that we're against what the intentions of the FCTC are, right? And another organization that I'm involved with, that Ali is part of the project, is the University of Catania, actually the ECLAT, because we're working on the Veritas project. That is is a study regarding people that have not smoked before, but they're currently vaping, to see if feel any kind of perceivable differences in their health aspects through the time that they have been vaping, if they have done it at least 3 months. Obviously, they have to be 18 years or older. And we're actually looking for people that fill that criteria to be able to participate in the study, which is kind of really important. Pretty much, I'm pretty sure that you all know, but Ricardo Pelosa is the guy that is in front of the project, and we all know Ricardo, and he's a great guy. He's a great scientist and really serious about studying harm reduction and try to identify anything that is brings any kind of alarm, and as well highlight every good thing regarding the practice.
Yeah.
All right. A follow-up question to Phillip. How are the advocacy groups treated there in Argentina?
What do you mean? Treated by who?
By the government.
Did they see advocacy groups or lobbyist groups like that as a nuisance, or just somebody making noise and no one needs to really hear it? Or do you find that they're semi-warm to the effort? They see people trying to do something good.
Or just showing the door.
Like in every country in Latin America, you're gonna find some regulators that are willing to hear you, a really small minority, right?
Yeah.
And a bunch that they're not interested in pretty much hearing anything because they have their own agenda and they don't really give a fuck about what other people.
Yeah. All right.
No, you're right on that one.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about this earlier. I love the fact that you added the importance of religion with the people of Argentina in your documentary. And like I told you, I was really shocked at the similarities between Argentina and Sicilian culture. It was very similar, and it really surprised me a lot. Can you explain to everybody why that was part of the documentary, how important that was actually to be part of the documentary?
Sure. In Corrientes, the place in Argentina that we filmed the vast majority of the project, there's a big culture about this pagan saint, or not recognized by the church saint, that is called Gauchito Gil. Gauchito Gil's story is kind of interesting. It's kind of somewhere related to the whole practice of vaping, because it's a guy that he works on the fields, right? Really humble, right? Not well economically or anything like that. He saw that the people were kind of dying of hunger, right? So he started committing a crime, robbing food to give it to the poor, right? To give it to the poor. He falls in love with the daughter of the sheriff, right? And that he was promised to a congressman, or I don't know, he was promised to somebody in the politics or on the regulator side, right? And he gets prosecuted. He gets pursued by the authorities to try to kill him because of what he was doing. In the meanwhile, people start telling that they are seeing miracles done by Gauchito Gil. That if they pronounce his name 3 times while they were in danger, Gauchito Gil appears and saves them, right? So it is kind of interesting drawing that lines, right? I know that it's a metaphor and sometimes people don't get it, and it's really difficult, but it's a lot of matter of faith and love.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot when it comes to harm reduction, and especially about overturning that obstacles, like for example in Argentina, that you have to be in love with people, in love with the genuine desire of helping people, to be able to jump those hoops in order to do something, right?
Yeah.
Part of this, well, if some like as a spoiler, the person that actually kills Gauchito Gil,
the Robin Hood,
before he kills Gauchito Gil, the saint, now saint, well, proclaimed saint or called saint, right? Now he tells the guy that he's gonna be killing him, that his son is sick, and with his blood he's gonna be cured, right? So the guy goes to his place and finds his son actually sick, really sick, about to die. He remembers what Gauchito said and comes back and pick up the blood of Gauchito, and goes back home and give it to the son. He recovers, and he starts advocating for Gauchito. Because he saved his son, right? Now, these days, Gauchito is a saint that is kind of related to practices that involve a lot of danger. So, for example, if a truck driver passes through the altar, because there's a huge altar for Gauchito Hill, passes by, they have to honk the horn. Yeah, they have to do it because it's part of their culture, and they believe that they're giving tribute to Gauchito who keeps him safe. So it's a
also
beautiful
a story that is told to kids to get them to go to bed early.
kind of, yeah.
There are a lot of different saints and martyrs. It takes something to keep track of which ones you say 3 times for help and which ones you say 3 times for harm. So I'm trying to get those together. But there are a friend of mine from originally from Nicaragua, I think, told me a story like that. I have no idea if it's related, but it's very
every culture. I mean, even Sicilians have a Robin Hood story. You know, it's just when I was listening to that story being told, I was thinking back to the stories I was told as a kid about an individual there in Sicily that did the same thing. You know, he saw that the people were starving. He was stealing from Mussolini and everyone else and giving back to the poor. And it was just weird listening to that whole story. And it's great that you tied those two things together, because I think, you know, with the community that has that faith that in that particular saint and having him associated with harm reduction, I think it's easier for those people to understand the importance of harm reduction in vaping.
Yeah, I do think I know, and I needed to hide their faces because obviously I didn't want to provoke any kind of, prosecution to them, right?
Yeah.
So I need to hide their faces, and I thought first of blurring their faces, but I think that it gives more of a message to use a mask of something that is really relevant there. So even though that it was something difficult to explain, I went out.
Yeah.
Timothy.
The only needle harder to thread than politics is religion, as you well know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, too, it's something that even the politicians can relate to, because those politicians grew up with those stories as well. So when you tie those two things in together, you hope that politician, you know, can look back.
Oh, I agree. You better tell Jeffrey.
You'd hope that politician could look back to his childhood and remember that story and say, hey, do I want to piss off a whole population of people that believe in this, you know? And
so I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. Excellent. Timothy.
There's a part of me that thinks that people are human in the sense
just the
that,
part.
Well, to your point about translating or delivering that parallel to government officials, you know, like to make that association to try to maybe trigger a nerve. But I'm thinking that a lot of politicians are all one and the same. When they're wearing the suit and the tie and they're behind the doors of the government, money talks and bullshit walks, right? So, I mean, that's kind of how they see it from a plain dollars and cents perspective, right? Who's got the money and who wants me to fight for their cause? And then I bet you when they loosen the tie up a little bit and the jacket, you know, the top button is done and they go home and they're around their friends and family, something tells me that there's probably a little bit more of an open door for them to have an objective opinion about something like that. They probably know wholeheartedly that it's better for people, but they just can't openly admit that unless it's in private circles, because otherwise it kills their constituency and the lobbyists won't like that. So several things crossed my mind, but I'm going to go to the third thing that popped into my head.
Uh-oh.
And we can backtrack later. So it just leaves more questions. But being that, you know, you're in the position that you're in, and let's just talk about any of the countries that are dealing with explicit bans of the product. What's the pulse of the medical community with regard to stuff like this? So obviously everyone knows that it's quote unquote banned. The public can get their hands on it somehow. We won't say how, but they get their hands on it. Are there any medical professionals that have bothered to look into the science of it and maybe kind of secretly in that closed door consultation go, well, if you can get it, man, you know, try vaping?
And there's a lot. And actually, in some of the countries that we have a public health system, right? You can go and talk to a doctor, and he's going to tell you, "Oh yeah, a lot of studies says that it's less harmful," right? But they're not going to admit that because otherwise, their boss or the Ministry of Health is going to go after them, right? And they can lose their job, right? So they will not publicly say it whatsoever. We have found, for example, Realidad that I was speaking about, that Dr. Diego Berrastro appears on the documentary, and he is the spokesperson for this health professional group. They have found a lot of doctors that are willing to take the chance, even though that is kind of sometimes like a professional suicide, right? To get involved in this kind of causes, that they're so convinced that they're doing something good that they're putting their job on the line and actually getting involved with this. And they have this group called Realidad that is a lot of countries. You find doctors from Ecuador, for Peru, for Costa Rica, from Argentina, from Spain, from a lot of countries in Latin America. They're betting their career on giving help to promote this harm reduction measure, because probably, and they have a lot of knowledge. For example, on the guy from Costa Rica, he have a lot of knowledge when it comes to harm reduction alternatives, when it comes to HIV and people dealing with addictions. So he have a lot of knowledge about that. So he's willing to jump that hoop to get into that professional suicide or professional complication that can actually be provoked to him, because of to get involved in this, because he definitely believes that it's something good what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about, like, I don't know if you want to call these extreme cases, or let's call these more acute instances, right? So if you're in the health sector and you're a physician or a doctor or a pulmonologist or whatever, and you look and you see that 72-year-old man that's come in, who's having all kinds of aging, all kinds of ailments, but primarily he recognizes that this man has been smoking since he was in his 20s and stuff like that. And you can see the signs of COPD coming, or you can see the signs of emphysema on the horizon, or just general health defects from smoking. And there's got to be that little devil on your shoulder at that point that says, you know what, I know damn well this 72-year-old man at this point in his life I'm going to have a hell of a time getting him off of cigarettes by either telling him to go quit cold turkey, or that's the end of the road, or I am already aware that he's tried NRTs and other quit methods that maybe are through the legal pathway, but it's not helping. And then conversely to that, and I'm certainly not promoting this, so let's not get it twisted. I just know that in the UK and other countries that they take this approach, in that, pregnant women who have been lifelong smokers or longtime smokers, and they see that pregnant woman, and they know that the health of that baby and the success of that birth more likely depends on the fact that they're not smoking. But do they look at those sort of acute cases and then kind of be that Robin Hood in a way?
Yeah, sometimes it happens. Sometimes they look through the propaganda. Yeah. They look through what their Ministry of Health is saying, even because they see that it doesn't make sense. Right? Right? Sometimes it does not make sense at all. So some people do. There's some clinicians, some doctors, some health professionals that they see the potential of this stuff, and they have noticed that, because it's really difficult to argue when you say that UK is giving 1 million free vapes to help achieve UK free smoke by 2030, right? Yeah. It's difficult to argue about that. You're seeing the country that is the second with the less interference from the tobacco industry in the world, and you see the biggest country that is donor of the FCTC. Yeah. On top of that, if you go through the next three places when it comes to tobacco interference, you see New Zealand, France, and Canada. So we have 4 of the 5 countries with less interference of the tobacco industry actually promoting harm reduction, right? So when you go all with this data and you show it to doctors, they begin to doubt. And at this present time, and everything starts with a doubt.
Yeah.
Am I getting the right info? Is the alarmist claims on media actually true? Is something real about this? And we just need a doubt, and then we can come in and start giving info. And that's when and it had happened a lot, that we get a lot of we see a lot of people, doctors and politicians, that start to shifting to a harm reduction approach. And we see
Right.
it, we have seen it through the years. I'm pretty sure that everybody here have 7, 8, 10 years been involved in this stuff. So
Yep.
we have seen how many people that they were against this stuff are actually now pro harm reduction. So,
Okay, so to close the loop on the question, so no, because I mean it all ties together, right? So what about personal observation? Do any doctors take general notice of health improvements in those that were former smokers that have now taken up vaping, even though it's not technically allowed in that country? Don't any doctors have that sort of epiphany, and they're like, wow, this guy's been my patient for, since he was a little kid, and he was in horrible shape when he was smoking, but now that I know that he's vaping, I've seen, improvements in his lung capacity, his overall general health disposition. Do they take notice of that at all, like real world patient scenarios?
there's actually one guy on the documentary that he was starting to lose his teeth because of smoking. And he said that he switched to vaping. He's doing a lot better now. He even started to get better with his dental health, right?
Mhm.
And his doctor is telling him that he's doing a lot better now. And one curious aspect that and actually I think there were 3 persons that mentioned it during the documentary, is that they stopped snoring.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of people stop snoring while they're sleeping when they switch to vaping. So there's something that we don't know why, we don't know what does it mean, but that it can actually have a study on that, that it will be kind of interesting. Well, there's
Right.
a lot of doctors that are seeing those aspects, that they're seeing that people are getting better on different things around their life. And I do think that they are making a switch, and that's the reason why some doctors say, "Oh, I've seen that it helped to quit smoking a lot of people that I know." And perhaps they don't push it. They don't say that they're pro harm reduction or pro e-cigarettes, but they're saying, "I have seen a lot of people that quit smoking with that stuff." And that's how it is.
And you mentioned Ricardo Pelosa earlier, and he's one of my heroes. He's someone who I started following me years and years ago, and let's just say he helped me become literate in what little science I was aware of on vaping, and he is extremely passionate about what he does. Same can be said of Ricardo Pelosa is, I believe, from Italy, and Roberto Sussman is in London now, but I'm not sure where he grew up or what country he's from. The two of them, I believe, I saw them both. I know I saw Roberto Sussman present virtually. I believe it was COP9, or was it? I cannot recall which.
The GFN, perhaps?
I believe it was the virtual meeting of was it the FTCC? Excuse me, the FC.
No, probably Roberto Sussman.
I believe it was 3 years ago, maybe.
Roberto Sussman lives in Mexico. He's actually the director of the consumer organization in Mexico as well, besides being a doctor in chemistry and actually in physics, and with expertise on gases, how they handle. He's professor of the UNAM, that is the University of Mexico. And probably he participated in the GFN, most probably because he always participated. He's a beast.
When people start talking about antifreeze, he's the guy to go ahead and force it. And he is nothing short of extraordinarily convincing, and he has a sense of humor that is just pitch perfect.
Yeah.
Because he said, "How can you possibly make such claims? Go away." and he'll like leave his study right here. If you don't understand it, please let me know. I'll get you an interpreter. I'm not wasting my time. But between the two of them, they're extraordinarily, they're forced to be reckoned with. I've seen them both speak at various conferences, and it makes a little more sense now considering all that they've had to deal with in terms of just, we're not talking misinformation or disinformation. We're just talking about the worst kind of non-information, just, making things up as you go along. So I applaud them both. I think, so you are now, I know your bio, I know you from your Twitter bio. Where do you now live? Where are you coming to us from?
In Costa Rica.
In Costa Rica.
Yep.
You need a roommate? You need a roommate?
I don't suppose you know either Scott or Todd Cutter, the Cutter brothers.
And you were talking about temperature. Here's around 72 degrees now.
Yeah, I know.
It's hot.
Allie, you're up.
So obviously I want to talk about the study because I'm involved in it, and we're trying to definitely get more people on board. And it's, I mean, believe it or not, it's hard to find people that never smoked, that vape, which is crazy because we keep hearing about all these people that are vaping that never smoked. So yeah, so obviously, information, we have the website and stuff like that. We can post, and I think I have the graphic that I can send over to John. Maybe we can post it on our page. But I mean, if you are interested and that fits your criteria, probably not a lot of people here in this chat, but if you know anybody, please spread the word. There's somebody in charge of each area. So if they're not in the US, they can definitely still participate. Just got to get them to the right person. And that's all listed there. So I want to talk about like the importance of studies like this and why this study is happening and why we need people to participate.
It's really important because a lot of the claims that we get on, and all of us are involved in advocacy. So we do hear, for example, what you just said about, they say that there's a mass people that have never smoked that are using these products. That is not true. It's really difficult because we know that globally, that is less than 10% of people, no, less than 6% the number of people that actually use vaping regularly and they have not smoked before. Right? So it's really difficult to get the study subjects, right? But we know a lot, and there's a bunch of studies regarding comparing cigarettes to e-cigarettes, and the benefits that it can bring to for people to switch from from cigarettes to vaping, right? But what do we know related directly to this, to the sole practice of vaping, right? How harmful it is. Right? There's a lot of things that we don't know yet. We know that Ricardo Pelosa, he made a really small cohort study like a decade ago, that it was a follow-up of 3.5 years. This study that is Ali participating, that Ali is the ambassador of, is the pilot study to see if we can get a pretty good number of people so we can do a clinical study, and that way kind of monitor and completely monitor these guys to see if there's any harms involved on vaping. Obviously, we don't go with a predisposition to not finding anything, because the idea is to be open. And, for example, let's say if we identify something, we can alert the people, okay, this is what it could actually cost you, right? But if we don't find nothing, or if we don't find something or whatever, the idea is to communicate it. We need to know more about these products. And there's some areas that we're still looking for that info, that we're still looking for that knowledge. And that's the importance of this kind of products. Even for advocacy, it will be a great deal for me when I'm advocating for this stuff, and where I'm talking to regulators and trying to inform them, saying, okay, we have this study that is related especially to people that have not smoked before, that have not had any kind of harms from their smoking history, right? That says that this is what can actually happen to this person that is using these products without that damages and that harm provoked by smoking 30, 40, 50 years like we have, right?
Yeah. Do you think, you and Allie, this study, hold on, Phil. Do you think Valley has a little bit to do with that? That some of these people that are vaping now that never smoked, they're kind of like doing what we did in the beginning, became those closet smokers where we didn't want to share with anyone that we were smoking cigarettes, and we kind of did it, in the car, or somewhere where no one was going to see. You think that Valley had a lot to do with the reason you're not getting anyone to participate in this study that hasn't been a smoker?
We have identified subjects. We have already a good number. Is not enough.
Yeah.
Not the number that we're looking for, because we're looking on a global scale. So we're looking for a big number, right? Whatsoever, I can tell you that according to the surveys from Europe, surveys from Australia, surveys. That's surveys.
You got it.
You nailed it.
Don't worry. I make those mistakes.
We got you. Don't worry, we got you.
So even the United States, we know that the vast majority of people that are using these products, they have a smoking history. So we know that it's less than 3% the people that are actually using these products, 4 or 5, depending on the area, right, that are using this product, they have not smoked before. And in top of that, we're looking for people that use them regularly. So we can identify if there's any harms, because there's a lot of people, like in the United States, that they use it once in a month, right?
That's how the FDA does it.
New research that shows that a lot of teenage vapors / never smokers tend to vape regularly into their mid-20s, and by their late 20s, a great deal, or many of them, it seems, stop vaping, or rather lose interest in vaping regularly. They might still occasionally vape. My question to you is, for those teenagers who were regular vapors, who are now in their mid to late 20s, who aren't, quote, regular daily vapors anymore, would you still want to speak with them?
If they regularly vape, yes.
They did regularly vape. Let's just say they are vaping maybe once a month. Let's just say for at least 5 years vaped regularly, and then just lost interest by their mid-20s after college.
It have to be analyzed on a case-by-case scenario to see if they meet the criteria whatsoever. I do advise that they come our way to try to see if they are not only willing to participate and fitting that criteria that we're looking for, because we're looking for them to be vaping the last 3 months regularly, right? So it depends a lot on each person, each particular person, and how they have behaved, right? But I will send it our way. If you guys know anybody, if anybody on the chat knows anybody that is, above 18 years old, that is vaping the last 3 months, and have not smoked before, or less than 100 cigarettes in their lifetime, send it our way. Send it to Ali. There's you guys all know her social media, and her email address is on the poster for the study. So send it her way. And if you're located in Asia, if you're located in Africa, if you're located in Latin America, if you're located in Eastern or Western Europe, we have ambassadors on all those locations, all 6 regions. So the idea is to get a sufficient cohort to start the pilot study, and then work out our way to see if we can get a clinical study well done to identify those aspects that I think, at least for me, they're really relevant. And I do wish to have a study this in my ammunition when I do advocacy.
Yeah. It was Ali, I don't know if it was Mike Pesco who was involved with the studies that showed with a certain amount of showed a fair number of teenage vapors who had never smoked lose interest into their early and mid 20s. Are you seeing much of that in your search for subject candidates, what have you?
Well, I mean, I don't get a lot of feedback from people that don't really fit the criteria, I think, because it's so specific. I mean, I do know some people. I have got, generated, a decent amount, obviously not as many as people I know that smoked prior. But most of them right now, the conversations I've had with them, it was for the same reason that Janine had mentioned earlier, dealing with stress and anxiety. Somebody that maybe smoked in the past and quit smoking for a long time and has going through, some stressful stuff and then, picks up a vape instead of going back to smoking. So they haven't smoked for 10 years. Obviously they wouldn't, qualify, but, they reach out and say, hey, I haven't smoked for this long or whatever, and now I vape. And so, I haven't really seen anything like that. It's just mostly people. One of my girlfriends said she does it to keep her weight down because it keeps her from snacking. At night she likes to eat sweets, and so she vapes a super low milligram of like a dessert flavor at night just to keep her from eating sweets, and it works. So I mean, everybody has their reasons for doing what they're doing.
That's safer than Ritalin. But that said, I know a lot of Michael, my stepson's friends, he included, who vapes their freshman and sophomore year of college. And now that he's on his way to med school, he's just not vaping anymore. It's no longer a fad. That being said, he could be lying.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look into this. But that's
wait for the midterms to come in. Wait for midterms to come in. He'll start smoking.
Exactly. How often do they need to vape before they qualify for the setting?
Yeah.
You have to be regular vaping the last 3 months. That's the
yeah.
They didn't.
We know one person.
Yeah. Did you got in touch with Madison, right?
Yeah, she's
Madison,
Morgan.
Yeah, Morgan.
Imagine that from all of 5 of us that we know so little people and we're so involved in the community. And do you imagine how this studies that comes out saying that they have 25, 50 people that are fitting that criteria, just like that, nobody knew that they were even made? How they got them?
Yeah.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the documentary and wondering if you are working on maybe collaborating with other individuals throughout the country and the world to put something together, a big piece. Are you looking to do something like that?
I haven't done it. I haven't even considered it yet, to be honest with you. It will be great to collaborate people with some of the countries, some other areas, and then do something that we can put together a lot of footage and kind of show a lot of what is going on. Like I said, there's a lot of stories that deserve to be told. There's a beautiful example on the documentary. You find the story of Facundo and his wife Aileen, that are both tobacco harm reduction advocates, and how they share their passion. And how they kind of pat each other in the back and say, keep going, because like we all know, sometimes it's really hard. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We have the info survey done last year that from the 35 people organizations that we actually surveyed, 60% are receiving intimidation, and that is physical violence, threats on social media, and just because of their advocacy, right?
Yeah.
All from people funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies.
Yeah.
One more. I got a couple of questions about the documentary stuff too. Did you try to get a politician on there, or a city official, or somebody tied with the government to be part of your documentary?
On that one, I was not able. On the one from Argentina, I was not able.
Right. Yeah.
On the next chapter, I'm trying to get one. I'm trying to get one. Actually, I know 2 that are pro harm reduction, and I will be looking for somebody that is against harm reduction.
I've been trying to get an 8 on this show for a long time. They won't come on here. And we're nice.
I have some really great ideas for who that might be, actually, if that's the show you want to do.
I would love to have, and they just assume that we're just going to attack them and make them feel stupid. And I'm like, we're not. We want to have a discussion without screaming and yelling back and forth. They're calling each other names and idiot and all this other stuff. But actually show us, tell us what you have learned, and we'll tell you what we have learned. And let's just work together and try to find some common ground that works for both. And that's the whole
You
purpose
guys
of
are
me
going
trying
to persist in calling it ain'ts no matter what I do. Right? It's ain'ts, like it ain't ain'ts. It's
it ain't. Yeah.
The point is, I'm not thinking of people who are openly, publicly against vaping, other forms of tobacco. I'm talking about people who may have a great deal of influence who really don't think about it,
Yeah.
or haven't made their feelings clear, or haven't talked about it. I'm more interested in those people who have a great deal of people listen to, people respect, who haven't made their position clear.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Having another, Turkish roast, whatever. Anyway, sorry about that. But, no,
are we going to need hookahs for this show?
Turkish is Turkish does. I don't want to talk about it. We're all good here. But yeah, the ain'ts. It's funny. I'm the one from the heart.
I think it would be really awesome if you were able to collaborate with some other guys on YouTube that just to put a big piece together. And I'm not just talking kind of like what you did, where it's not just about the personal stories, but just also the benefits. And I think a lot of times we forget to talk about the benefits of vaping. We like to share our stories, but I think it's also important to share the benefits of society with vaping, and not, always focus on the other part of it, our personal stories. And I think a lot of people, I don't like saying it, but I think a lot of people have gotten somewhat tired of our stories because, don't get me wrong, I think they're great, but I think it's time that we do introduce some science to it. And I wish we had like what was the guy, Bill Nye? What was the science guy that made everything simplified?
Bill Nye, the science guy.
We need a Bill Nye. I think we need someone like that in our community that isn't going to throw out these words that people are just going to go, you know what?
You have one in liquid nitrogen and then take it out. Broken to
Dr. Colin Mendelsohn.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he keeps it very simplified.
Yeah, and sometimes
I think I agree with you. The science is important. The data is important. But the micro data, how shall I put this? Like all the different cancer markers. These are not things that people understand, are going to want to hear about, or are going to want to be. They don't want to be edified. They're not going to sit around for that explanation, and I don't blame them. Yeah. The most important thing we can do is come at them with a positive message, some common ground that we can hopefully all agree upon. Smoking is bad. It's not a terrible place to start now, is it? And a lot of people still smoke. Well, wouldn't it be great if there was a way for less of them to smoke and die, and the burden on healthcare, et cetera, et cetera? Well, sooner or later, you're making sense before you. Well, I think we're all a little angry about the way we've been treated, and rightfully so. We have to step back and not think about the Simon Chapmans of the world. Think about those people that might have not made their minds up at all and are really just not interested in hearing for or against arguments because they're so bloody, repetitive, and dumb. I mean, I'm pretty sure these people already know Public Health England digs vaping. That much said. We can probably work on our message and
we need to get Mendelsohn in a lab coat, get him some goggles, have him do some crazy experiments live on the show, and just simplify the whole science of it. I mean, it just like Phillip said, it's simple. Smoking is bad. Everybody knows that. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's almost like we've gotten to the point where vaping is even worse. Vaping's even worse than smoking.
Nobody even talks about smoking anymore. Right. Nobody talks about it. All the anti-tobacco groups only talk about vaping.
It gets to a certain point in your advocacy career that you are speaking in such esoteric details that you don't know what you sound like anymore. And I think Deirdre, thank God, tells me, Phillip, you sound like some, hack scientist without a degree. And I look at her and I realize she's right. Number one. Number two, even with all the degrees that would be commensurate with my knowledge, it wouldn't matter. No one cares when you break it down into numbers. They want to know about helping people
Yeah.
and who needs help. And
Right.
that's
Well, it's gotten to the point where we're going to start seeing people pat other people in the back for smoking. Good job. Yeah, good job.
At least you're not
Yeah.
vaping.
Yeah. Thank God you're not vaping. Thank God.
there was a time when people patted me on the back for not smoking and vaping instead.
I don't know if
Reached out
you guys
in
have
return.
seen have you seen something that is called the Bartolini principle?
The Bertolini, yes, the BS asymmetry principle.
Exactly. And that's what we go through because we are a reactive community. Obviously, it's really easy to say vaping caused popcorn lung, but to actually clear that up, we have to go through the amounts of diacetyl in e-cigarette, the amounts of diacetyl in combustible tobacco. That it was actually taken out e-liquids back in 2011, and we have to go through so much stuff that is the Bartolini principle. We have to go through an order of magnitude, more effort to correct the bullshit that is being said so quickly. So that's why sometimes people are really numbed out or not willing to hear our arguments because it is difficult to express it.
It's frustrating as shit. You saw Pave today posted some bullshit about Invala, and I'm like, really?
Yeah, they're still
Go,
on
Allie.
about
Go, Allie.
Jeffrey, I have the best Brandolini gif in the world, meme in the world. I'll share it with you. I think I stole it from Yuka, where I said I steal most of my good stuff from Yuka. Anyhow, I'll share this with you.
Copyright
It's
infringement.
basically something along the lines of like, the moon is made of cheese. Like, no, actually, we sent people up there, blah blah blah. And, it really can't, support, this, that, and by the way, in any week they couldn't eat it, so no, it's not made of cheese. The person replies, "I'm thinking cheese."
I got a quick question for you, Jeffrey, on the numbers there in Argentina, which were like 22.5%. Is there also a number that differentiates the income of the 22%?
Oh,
is it a majority of the poorer people, the middle class? I don't know if you have a middle class, poor, rich. I'm sure everybody does, but
like in most countries, the lower economic status is the one that smokes the most. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to vaping, actually, you see that is around 30 years old and with a higher economic status, because when a product goes into the illicit market, it gets really expensive because it gets through a lot of hands to be able to be sold at the shop, right? So it is really expensive to buy a vaping device or a liquid in Argentina. They have to spend a lot. And we're talking about an economy that is fucked up, right? Argentina economy is fucked up. They have a huge devaluation of their currency. So everything became really expensive for them.
Right. Interesting. And do the government officials there see any correlation or danger in the fact that their staunch position on vaping and not allowing it into the mainstream? Do they consider or look at the black market and worry about the dangers of the black market, because people are kind of left to their own devices at that point? Like, are they worried about the general public having to go buy things underneath the counter that they don't know where they came from?
From the same places that they're smuggling the vaping devices, they are trafficking people. So,
I'm awake.
Yeah, it is really difficult to say if they're interested or not. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on in Argentina.
I massacred this earlier. I felt like I needed to make up for that. Anyway, this is one that I could use this 3 times a day. Thankfully, I've had a bit of a cold recently, and I've had to stay off Twitter, but that hasn't stopped me from thinking that I should use this. Anyway, the principle, beautifully illustrated right there. And yes, at the end of the day, I try my best not to dine at Brandolini's table. That's it.
And that's what we go through every single day. Principle.
Yeah, I think about how much time, and at the very least, I think we're doing a lot better on Twitter. I don't know what happens on Facebook. I don't go on there very often. You guys have to keep me up to speed on that. But in terms of Twitter advocates wasting their time with people with 2 followers and nothing but an interest in keeping them from having, a thought.
It's from Jamie.
I think we're doing much better.
But have you ever thought that, and you guys that are really effective on Twitter and comment a lot, have you thought that perhaps a lot of the movement that on the needle, from the anti-vaping to the pro-harm reduction for people, have to be about because of you, because of what you do, because that is that job, that work that you do on a daily basis, one and one and one and over and over and over and over and over and over again. That is because if we look back perhaps 15 years, I'm pretty sure that nobody thought that harm reduction related to people smoking is going to be even discussed by the president of the United States.
Correct.
And you've seen it, right? So actually, you have put this in the debate. You have put this in the discussion. There's a brilliant thread by AVM, by the American Vapors Manufacturers, today how the people in, the people in NGOs funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies, American, and all those guys, that, everything is about banning stuff. Let's ban everything that don't bring us any funding.
Right.
The interesting thing is, I believe that you have Bloomberg Philanthropies funding, and then you have the message that comes with that funding, which is typically authored by Mr. Matt Myers.
Exactly.
And there are a lot of just, I guess you could, the useful idiots like Nicholas Florko. I don't necessarily think Florko knows much at all about vaping, other than what his bosses expect him to write and how to write it. I mean, I think he believes what he writes, but only because he's been told over and over again, this is, this is, and this is not. And whenever I think that Nicholas is close to maybe, seeing, it from the other side of the pasture, well, either his salary gets a bump or one way or the other. Let's say the last piece he wrote, I was very disappointed in that one. And I think AVM's roasting was actually well-deserved on that one. Anyhow, the point is, we have a lot of extremely high-profile people that, that were good enough to follow me, who don't necessarily have a word or have yet to say a word on tobacco harm reduction or harm reduction in general, who have very strong their convictions as far as opioid harm reduction, things of that nature. In general, they are all very much in favor of that. I believe these are people that we should speak to, in the right way about what they're not quite getting, the good information about tobacco harm reduction and why it matters. And I think we should all, chip in with our ideas about what might be the best way to go about doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we spend a lot of time trying to stay on the positive messaging route, but I think the thing that probably hurts us the most, and this would be a sort of a global residual, is that the anti-vaping organizations, and specifically all of them are funded, but I'm just saying even the government organizations, they're given so much leeway to speak untruth. And what I mean by that is that they can come out on Twitter, they can put in an ad, they can get on TV, they can make themselves available to any advertising lane that they want to, and they're given no resistance to the information that they set forth. So it ends in things like erectile dysfunction and your hair falling out and slime in your mouth and formaldehyde in your e-liquid, and you're going to get popcorn lung and all. And they say all of these things, yet from an industry perspective, we're not able to refute that genuinely. Like, we can't, I get it. You can't say, oh, it'll cure, all of your smoking ailments that you've had for the last 30 years. But we're not even allowed to really combat that misinformation with like true information that can be looked at as being valid information. Instead, we just sort of look like the petulant child that's like just trying to come up with anything to counter this negative message that they push around. And really all we're trying to say is what they're saying is a bunch of hogwash. And part B to that is that none of us as vapors have ever sat in front of any one particular person, figurehead or otherwise, and said that vaping is 100% safe. We've never said that.
And they had the people in tobacco control have been doing that for 40 years without nobody saying shit. Nobody have said you're wrong. Okay, what you're saying about passive smoking, even though that is secondhand smoking, even though that it is harmful, it is not as harmful as you said. About Stanton Glantz actually admit he actually hyped that out. It's the only way to push for bans in public places. The environment aspect of tobacco, they're saying a huge number that is not that as much that have been raised to me by Atakan Befritz from Switzerland and from Sweden. And there's a lot of stuff that they're saying that is actually made bigger in order for them to pursue their own interests. They're not used to being said that they are wrong.
Right. Well, even here in California, when they had that big argument with secondhand vaping, the vapor, and the state of California did their own study in all these vape shops, and it came back cleaner than the air outside. Exactly. And yet that study is never shared or talked about. That was just, I guess we were wrong, but let's make sure nobody knows about this. And it was us that shared that like crazy. And, because, it was just like, well, wait a minute. You mean the shop the air inside the shop is cleaner than the air outside? So, and it blew me away that again, it's their agenda. They're selling their agenda, and their agenda is to make sure we continue to buy cigarettes. So
it occurs to me that a lot of the time we're sharing these studies that are ridiculous, that consider the most insignificant of results significant. That's their headline. I wonder how many of those studies would never have been paid any attention, or would never have seen the light of day if we hadn't gotten so outraged about it. And it's probably a good idea for us to think about which of these studies, like, for example, if it's an American Heart Association or something like that, yes, a strategic and a very, very definite response to that is warranted. When it's from, a large, well, quote unquote, respected NGO like that, which is just proliferating nonsense. But when it comes to individuals who funded some crap study from the outskirts of Bakersfield that said that, the air inside some damn vape shop is toxic, you kind of have to leave that one alone and just say, sorry, I'm going to fish on. But I think that what I'm about to say brings me, John, you asked me what I might want to bring to in terms of this segment. I think my segment is going to be about what helps you get over the unbearable anguish of having to deal with straight up illogical, fabricated horseshit. Just made up from some sources who actually have a certain amount of credibility in, tobacco control scientific circles. What do you do that brings you back around to your better angels when you're so frustrated, all you want to do is say fuck until the day you die? What helps?
Drink.
Drink.
No, that never helped anyone.
Flavored alcohol.
This is my question to you. You've seen a lot. You've done a lot. You have heard some of the worst kind of disinformation about vaping. Much worse than most likely any of us have. What do you do to help keep a healthy perspective on your goals and not just, I guess, roast yourself in anger? I mean, there are times when everyone just becomes flat out pissed, angry. It's not good for you. Is there something that you do, whether it be listen to music or work out? Obviously, that might be something you do occasionally. the truth, that's me saying, yes, you're in good shape. The truth is, I'm interested in hearing everyone's idea of what is the antidote to having been exposed to entirely too much anti-vaping bias, and the worst kind, because we all know tobacco control purists can get away with saying almost anything. And we have to, back it up with, I don't know how many years of RCTs, et cetera, before we can say anything. The playing field isn't even remotely level. But any ideas for what it is that brings you back to a state of, I'm not going to allow these people to make
peace.
No, when you're putting less.
I want to answer that.
Go.
One of the reasons that harm reduction products, especially vaping, it's so efficient to get people out of cigarettes is the reason why we keep advocating after so many years. And that is a community.
Yeah.
That is the people around us. Because, for example, if you stop, John is going to ask you. If you stop, Tim is going to ask you. If you stop, Ali is going to ask you. And that's the reason why is, for example, that vape shops function as a cessation center. That's one of the reasons why they're so effective to get people out of smoking. And that's the same reason why we're so involved in advocacy, because we start getting to know people and we start kind of being really related to people and familiar with people. So we keep doing what we do. For example, if you feel stop, I can assure you that there's going to be like 30 guys on Twitter asking, what the fuck are you?
Where's Phil?
Jeff, I can't believe you got it right on the first try. No, what you just said makes all the sense in the world to me. And I adore the people who, if I don't tweet for a week about vaping, or if I don't tweet something idiotic for a week, I tweet a lot of idiotic things just because I have to in order to keep myself from losing it entirely. But yes, occasionally I need a little self-care, and it comes in the form of tweeting things that are less than to do with tobacco harm reduction. That said, I think that what you just said makes all the sense in the world. Is those who do advocate for tobacco harm reduction, if they were to fall off the face of the earth tomorrow, a lot of people would notice. Maybe not so much with the so-called tobacco control warrior clan, but we'll leave that alone. But that's actually a very good point. I appreciate you sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think we all sometimes just need some sort of out just to kind of get back to focus, because you start reading those, especially Parents Against Vaping. You start reading that, and it just pisses you off. And I'm going to make a joke here, but I almost if they post another one about erectile dysfunction, I swear to God, I'm going to take a picture of a boner in my pants and put it on their page just so they shut the hell up about that. Well, not the whole thing, in my pants, guys, relax. It gets, and we all get to the point where we just
dehydrate yourself, vape, do nothing but vape. Do not have a sip of water all day long, and then try to accomplish that. And I think you're probably PAVE is looking for you.
Yeah.
They have a study that's right. For
I think we've all gone like.
It has to do with things that vaping can, if you do not drink water, hydrate. Yes. Hydrating is more important for people who vape. There's no question. The more you vape, the more important it is to be mindful of your hydration. That said, let me see. This has something to do with erectile function or dysfunction, depending on how you want to look at it. That's all I have to say about that.
We've all, even just, not just on Twitter, but it just, when we come up to someone that sees us vaping and they just say something stupid, there are days where I just I don't want to say nothing. I just want to walk away because it's just so stupid, and you just kind of, and they could see it in your face, it's just like, God damn, you're an idiot, and you just want to walk away, but you can't help but have to say something,
No one's running around saying Jack Daniels has stolen my boner.
Country music. You can go to country music. You can hear all that all day long.
To watch our consumption, so we might perform after the performance. If you understand, why is no one getting all upset about Johnny, Jack, Jim, or it's just a little bit silly? All that being said, if you're not going to die an awful slow death from a number of complications, and let's say you have to drink an extra couple glasses of Gatorade every day so you can achieve your highest and best potential. That's a decent trade-off.
I want to ask Jeffrey one more question before we go, because this is kind of a question we ask a lot of people that come on our show, and we kind of forgot to ask you, but how's your family feel about what you're doing? Your immediate family.
They feel really pleased. They do believe that what I'm doing is good. Actually, they watch the conference that I participate in, and they read the articles that when I get published in the media. They have watched the documentary. They do think that I know what I'm talking about, right? My father used to smoke. He smoked 4 packs of cigarettes, around 80 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
He had a heart attack. We almost lost him. Fortunately, he recovered. He stopped smoking. And now he says that he wished that, because it was difficult for him to stop smoking, that he wished that he had that opportunity, because my father is 84 years old. So he wished that I had that opportunity when he was younger to quit smoking. He told me smoking. Like I said, I smoke around 40 cigarettes a day. So it was difficult for me to quit smoking before entering vaping, because
you were smoking 2 packs a day before.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I smoked for 17 years. I bought a Vape, an Inokin Cool Fire 4, to reduce the number of cigarettes and to use it on places inside house, inside office, not to quit smoking, because I didn't want to quit smoking.
So places where you couldn't
something to take care of the edge while you were where you were not able to smoke a cigarette. Yeah.
Exactly. I quit by accident. I even carried a pack of cigarettes for around 6 months in the car, just in case that I had for a cigarette. It never happened. I gave the pack of cigarettes away. And after that, I started advocating, because I found it so easy to quit smoking with a vaping device that I said I have to tell the people that I know.
Yeah. And nobody shares their story of how they got into smoking, but everyone should take notice of how we want to share that story, how we stopped smoking and got into vape. No one goes around, man.
It took me 14 months of having a couple of cigarettes in the glove compartment of my car before I was actually just stop.
Well, we are at that time, Jeffrey, and I want to thank you for being part of the show today. And I think it would be great if you were to work on something like we were talking about a document. It'd be great if you would just come up with a format that you want everyone to do, some of the creators that are out there, and so it fits your format. It would be an excellent idea for you to do. Come up with something like that. And just have stories from not just here in the United States, but all over the world in different towns and communities. I think it would be see an opportunity for everyone to see these different faces, not just 21-year-old, 18-year-olds, but see people in their 40s. And that's something I noticed as well in your documentary. Everyone was a much older person. So I don't understand why they don't see that. Why the anti-vaping groups don't see that there are people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s vaping. So I want to thank you for joining us. Yeah, all of us in this panel except Allie's young.
23.
He's got some age here, John.
I forgot to introduce her as the amazing Allie, but I'll get back. I'll get back to that next. Yeah. Tim. Yeah. Tim, go ahead. You can say your goodbyes. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful, Tim.
Sorry, the dog erupted like 2 seconds before that. No, honestly, I laud you, Jeffrey, for your efforts, and I mean, as a collective here on the show, I mean, what we try to do with this show is to bring strong voices of advocacy to the stage, so that other people can hear the message and hear the efforts that are going on. Because I feel like sometimes, the little folk, the consumer advocates, the people that are just trying to preserve it and keep it for themselves, so they won't go back to smoking, hopefully. They need to know that there is a larger community out there, and that there are a lot of really good people fighting the good fight, and trying to send the message. So it's great that we can have people of your caliber on the show to share your story and share with us your effort at vaping advocacy and harm reduction in general. So thank you, sir. I appreciate you being on the show, and it was a pleasure meeting you. Absolutely.
If I could add, it's really wonderful to put a face and a voice to the person I've seen on so many World Vape Days, write some very compelling things, and I appreciate your being here. Thank you, sir, and look forward to hearing more great things from you in the future.
Thank you very much, Phil.
And thank you, Jeffrey. Obviously, thought it was really important that everybody hear about the study and about the amazing documentary that you're doing, and really looking forward to seeing, the next episodes and special episodes and keeping up with that, because you're doing amazing work, and I feel really lucky that I get to work with you.
Thank you very much. Great to work with you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, everybody in chat, for joining us. We will see everybody next Wednesday. Allie, who's our guest next Wednesday?
We got Gregory Connolly and Jacob Greer.
Jacob Greer. Again, the link to the video is... Who's that? Who is that? Oh, I thought I heard something.
Honey.
Yeah. We have links to Jeremy's video is in the header of this. Jeffrey's video in the header. It's in the chat as well. Go over there and check that out, guys. Share it as well. Get that out there, especially if you know someone that speaks Spanish and that doesn't speak very good English. It's a great video to share with them and see how.
Everyone I went to school with but me, pretty much. So I'll be sharing that. It is safer hashtag.org.
Hashtag safer.com.
Yes, but
safer.com.
It's in the header. And Jeffrey, you could say a few words before you head on out. If you have anything going on you want to share as well, go ahead.
Plug yourself.
Plug.
Well, no, there's a bunch of stuff that we need to be kind of on top of. Like I said, the FCPC COP10 is coming up. There is a genuine need for as many people to get involved as possible. We have to be brave. We have to put ourselves a little effort. It's a really important year for harm reduction in general when it comes to people related, people are unwilling or unable to quit smoking, and for ourselves, users of safer nicotine products. It's really important that we put our efforts this year, because there's a lot of decisions that are going to be taken that can affect us. Please follow Allie, her efforts, John, Tim, Phil, because we all put a lot of effort in what we're doing. And like I said, it's a lot of dedication, a lot of passion, a lot of genuine interest to help people around us, that for them to have a possibility, have the chance of stopping smoking so easily as we had. And accessibility of these products depends on, it will bring a lot of benefit to public health. It will save a lot of lives, and it will help a lot of people meeting their grandchildren. And that is important to me, and I think it's important to everyone here. So if you're interested on the documentary, John, like John said, is on the chat. It does have subtitles in English. It's in English. So you can watch it even though if you don't understand Spanish. And hopefully the special video will be out tomorrow, hopefully. And, keep fighting the good fight. Don't give up. There's a lot of time. There's a lot of effort that needs to be done. And even though that is not looking like it, we're winning.
Yeah, winning.
Yep.
Hey, the numbers every year keep going up. That's got to mean something. And also for you, for the documentary, when you do get that out, let me know. And if you would like, I would love to be able to share that on the Example Box channel. It's a huge channel, and I'd love to do that and upload it to the channel as well for you. And if you don't mind, I would like to upload that to this channel as well, the first one, if that's okay with you. Let me. I gotta get copyright. So make sure I don't get dinged. I don't want to get dinged, but it's a huge channel. It's 135,000 people. So I would love to be able to share that on that channel as well.
The quality of your production thus far is really
yeah, awesome. I loved it. Other than it was shot with Sony, it was a great video. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Canon is really expensive.
I know. Again, thank you everybody in chat. We'll see everybody next week. We got Gregory on next week, and we'll see everybody next week at 4 p.m. Don't forget, 4 p.m. now, guys. 4 p.m. Pacific time, Standard Time. Peace and out.
Hey.